Today we'll meet someone whose job is to predict what the weather will be like. The man in today's story is slightly different from the weather people you see on TV. He tries to find out what the weather will be like a long way into the future. It's called long-range weather forecasting. People who depend on the weather, such as farmers and water companies, listen carefully to what he says. Let's find out more about long-range weather forecasts in today's story, Weatherman.
I think we're in for a period now of this year and another couple of years of average to above average rainfall, so I think it's quite a good outlook.
Farmers in southern Australia who've just endured the worst drought in 100 years and are now being buffeted by regular biting cold fronts may scoff at talk of good seasons back upon us. Many months ago, long-range weather forecaster John Moore predicted a late autumn break.
There was a lot of pressure on myself towards the end of May because there was possibly thousands or hundreds of thousands of acres of crop sown dry on my prediction, and yeah, there was a bit of pressure on for a while.
Just had a bit of rain on it in early April, and within about 5 weeks it started to come up. And then there was nothing come till that late break in May, and it needed the drink then pretty bad. We've had 70 mils this month, which has been very good.
Riley Dye's ewes and lambs are thriving on a lush Whistler wheat crop. Dye is one of more than 100 farmers and corporate clients, such as water authorities, who follow John Moore's long-range forecasts.
And I look forward to seeing John's forecast to see where I can move next, sort of thing. And it gives him more confidence.
And really it must be worth thousands of dollars.
Yeah, when you move with things and the season moves with it, it is.
Moore has a growing list of predictions proven true, based on a belief that a drought announces itself by an initial dry year, which escalates over the following 2 years. In May 2002, he forecast the current 3-year drought.
It appeared to me that something was looming, so I then did 2003 and 2004 and came up with the prediction that the drought wouldn't break till the autumn of 2004.
And it's been proven so?
Been proven quite correct, yes.
Moore believes there'll be no dramatic flood rains across southern Australia, just a steady return to normal rainfall patterns. As a farmer, frustrated by inaccurate forecasts, he devised his own weather formula over many months in 1978.
I actually used it to predict the break of the 82-83 drought. I was actually 2 weeks, it happened 2 weeks earlier then than what I'd predicted.
Moore charts the movements of planets and ocean currents, combines the Southern Oscillation Index, which measures the rate of evaporation from the oceans, and checks that with extensive rainfall records. He has a proven accuracy for South Australia, southern New South Wales and Victoria, but admits predicting long-range weather for Tasmania and Gippsland is difficult.
The weather is really a living thing. It moves in different directions and with different strengths, so it's difficult to be precise to a region.
Even so, forecasting up to 2.5 years into the future, Moore's forecasts have a growing following. It's
just not a matter of sowing a crop, having enough moisture then. It's particularly important to know whether you're going to have enough moisture in the spring to finish the crop, and that's where my clients find it so valuable.
John Moore believes the Weather Bureau relies too heavily on computer modelling, which doesn't allow for all the variables of climate. And he says too much emphasis is placed on the impact of the Southern Oscillation Index.
An El Nino on its own won't create a drought, but if you have other factors that are causing dry conditions and then you bring an El Nino on top of it, that turns a dry period into a drought.
There's also good news for Moore's snowfield clients, better than average snowfalls, which will in turn boost depleted reservoirs.
Yeah, we're getting regular cold fronts, and I think as we go further into the year, actually in the spring we could have some heavy rain, so I'm quite confident about it.
It takes the pain out of worrying about the thing, and stress factor, I suppose, you call it that. Stress out of pain. We've got enough stress now.
The weatherman is called John Moore. It seems like John is very good at predicting what the weather will be like. Why did he start to make his own weather predictions?
As a farmer, frustrated by inaccurate forecasts, he devised his own weather formula over many months in 1978.
As a farmer, he was frustrated by inaccurate forecasts. John Moore used to be a farmer. He was frustrated or annoyed by inaccurate forecasts. If something is inaccurate, it's wrong or not correct. John was annoyed by wrong forecasts. A forecast is a prediction. Usually it's a statement about what the weather will be like. Listen again.
As a farmer, frustrated by inaccurate forecasts, he devised his own weather formula over many months in 1978.
So John devised or invented his own weather formula. Here, a weather formula is a system of forecasting the weather. It's a system used to predict or to try to know what the weather will be like. John was annoyed by wrong forecasts, so he invented his own system of forecasting. How does John forecast the weather?
Moore charts the movements of planets and ocean currents, combines the Southern Oscillation Index, which measures the rate of evaporation from the oceans, and checks that with extensive rainfall records.
First, John charts the movements of planets and ocean currents. Here, charts is used as a verb. To chart is to record in detail. Note that chart is also a noun. A chart is a map or a graph. John records in detail the movement of planets and ocean currents. Ocean currents are movements of water in the sea. Listen again.
Moore charts the movements of planets and ocean currents, combines the Southern Oscillation Index, which measures the rate of evaporation from the oceans, and checks that with extensive rainfall records.
After he charts the movements of planets and ocean currents, he combines them with the Southern Oscillation Index. The Southern Oscillation Index measures the rate of evaporation from the oceans. Evaporation is the process of liquid turning to gas. This is usually because of heat. Water in the ocean heats up and can turn into gas. So the Southern Oscillation Index measures how much water from the ocean turns into gas. John takes all this information and checks it with extensive rainfall records. Extensive rainfall records give detailed information about rain, how much rain an area has had over a long period of time. So John has to think about all these different pieces of information to make his weather forecasts. Many people rely on his forecasts.
There was a lot of pressure on myself towards the end of May because there was possibly thousands or hundreds of thousands of acres of crop sown dry on my prediction, and there was a bit of pressure on for a while.
John says hundreds of thousands of acres of crop were sown dry on his prediction. Sown dry means that the seeds for the crops were planted in dry land. Sown is the past tense of sow. To sow is to put seeds in the ground, so they'll grow. Usually sown seeds need water. Because John predicted that it would rain soon, hundreds of thousands of acres were sown dry. So a very large area of land was planted with crops because John made a forecast that it would rain soon. It did rain, and the farmers were very happy with John's forecast.